And now we're on Daf Hayom and Beis. And the Gemara is saying that the Mishnah is implying a kasha. Even though one mazik would not be sufficient to teach me another mazik, because each mazik has its own chumrah, but lichtov rachman tarte v'teisei idach minayu. If we have two avos that have two different chumros, then we should be able to derive the third av. So, for example, how would this tzad hashava work? If the Torah would have written both shor and mavet, which is Keren and Shane, we could derive Eish from Keren and Shane. Why? Because even though you can't learn from either one of them alone, because Keren is Kavanos Lahazik, and Eish is not Kavanos Lahazik. Shane is Ein Kavanos Lahazik, but it's Yesh Hanol Zeka, and that doesn't apply to Eish. So therefore, if we put the two together, both Shane and Keren and Shane, then we should be able to derive Eish in a Tzad HaShavah. But then we're going to reject that Tzad HaShavah because Shane can't teach me Eish, because Shane is Yesh Hazan Zeka, and it has a chumrah that Eish doesn't have, because in Eish it doesn't get any benefit from the Hezed. But now that it says both Shane and Keren, then if we have a pircha on Shane, then we'll apply the principle of Keren Yochia. And likewise, if we have a pircha on Shane, we're going to apply the principle of Keren Tochia. And in each case, it's going to prove that that chumrah that the other mazik has is not applicable and does not generate the chiyuv, and therefore the siba of the chiyuv is because the Torah says you're chayev when you're holding on to a mazik and you don't guard it properly. And in that case, we can learn from this Bameh Matzinu of Keren and Shane and derive Eish. Because here too in Eish also, you have a problem of Darka Lahazik and Shmiras and Alecha. Now the Tana goes back and he says something else. Hodar v'yomar chada mitarti lo asik. You cannot derive Eish from a combination of Shor and Shane. Why? Because each one of them has a chumrah that doesn't apply to Eish. For example, they are both Yesh B'hem Ruach Chayim. And maybe the Torah says you have to pay damages because it's Ruach Chayim. That chumrah doesn't apply to Eish. Eish is Ein Bo Ruach Chayim. So therefore, we cannot possibly derive Eish from the combined forces of Shane and Keren. So now we come to the conclusion that you cannot derive Keren and Shane one from the other. You cannot derive Eish from the combination of Shor, meaning Keren, and Mavu, meaning Shane. So Rava now says that maybe we could derive the other mazikin from bar plus one of the mazikin. Omar Rava v'kulu kishadis bar beinayhu asya kulu b'me'atzad. We could derive all the others mazikin from a b'me'atzad if we add one of the mazikin together with bar, and we can create this b'me'atzad. Because you won't be able to find any chumrah that's common to bar and another one of the mazikin. And therefore, through this tzad hashava, we're going to be able to come to the conclusion that anything that's darka lahazik is chayim, shmiras and alecha. Olabar mi Keren. However, if you try to derive Keren from bar and another mazik, you'll have a pircha And what is that? Mishum Dikal and Mifrach. Malakulu Shekei Moed Mitchilasam. What's unique about Karen is that it's not considered a belligerent animal. And Darkal Hazik, it's not Muad Mitchilasan. That's why I call it on the first three Negichas Hashar Tam. And that's why in the first three Negichas he only pays Chatzi Nezek. So once again, there's a chumrah in all the mazikin that doesn't apply to Karen, in that all the mazik is muad from day one. But in the case of Karen, he's not muad till after 3 times of negicha. Ulamandi Omar, and there's going to be another opinion here. Rashi says he doesn't know where they got it from. That Adarabba Karen Adifa Shekamenos Al Hazik Afilu Karen Nami Asik. That Karen is considered muad mitchilasam because it's kavanos lahazik. It was always a belligerent animal from the get-go. Is therefore we could derive even Karen from bar and one of the other avos. And you can't say, well, Karen can't be derived because he's not muad mitchilasam, because according to this man the Omar, he's muad mitchilasam. Again, Rashi says on his parish, Heichan yesh man the Omar, because we don't know where it came from. So now the Gemara asks the following kasha: why did the Torah have to write all the Avos Nezikin? When in fact it would have been enough to write bar and any one of the other Mazikin, and we could derive them all, possibly with the exception of Karen. And the Gemara answers, Lamai hilchsa kasminu rachmana l'choseya. In other words, the Tana of our Mishnah wants to teach that each one of the Arba Avos has its own unique halachos. For example, Karen l'chalik ben tamil u'muedes. In the case of Karen, he only pays chatzi nezek migufo on the first 3 negichos. He only becomes a shar muad to pay nezek shalom and aliyah after the 4th negicha, or at least after the 3rd negicha. Shein v'regel have unique dinim. The Torah says ubir v'stei acher, and the Chachamim darshan later on at Daf Chaf Alpha and base v'stei acher v'lo b'rshus harabbim. Bar lift over us kalim. If kalim fall into the bar, then the Baal bar doesn't pay for that. And therefore, if you ask me why did the Mishnah list the 4 Avos Nezikin, because each one of the Avos Nezikin has its own unique din. So Gemara asks Rabbi Yehuda Machayv al Niskei Caleb Bar. You're telling me that what's unique about bar in the Zikin is that you don't pay for Caleb that broke in the bottom of the bar. That's okay according to Chacham, but it's not okay according to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that you pay Niskei Caleb in a bar, and now we have to ask, well, what is your unique din in the case of bar, if you hold that bar is chayev even for nizkei kelim? And the Gemara answers, liftar ba'asa adam. If a human being falls into your bar, you don't have to pay damages. We'll blame it on the person for not being careful. Adam l'chayv bi'arba v'dvarim. Why was Adam mentioned here if you hold a mavis Adam? And that is because he's chayv not only in nezek, but also in tzari, pushavas, and boshes. Eish, what's the unique halach of eish? Liftar bo esatamun. Right, if you have, let's say, a god haystack, but it's covered over, like they put blankets on it or whatever, then the eish is part of it. In fact, the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda, he holds machayev on this came tamun the eish. So what new halachas apply to eish? You can't say tamun because according to Rabbi Yehuda, he's chayev for tamun. Lasuye mai here on the top of that vav. Lasuye lichacha niro v'sichacha avanav. What happened here is that the eish was mazik the karka whether it's Nero, which is Karka Charusha, that's opened up, and it was Mekalkel, the Charisha, and Sichacha means it singes the Avonim, and the Avonim now are, black and whatever. So this is a kilkul to the Avonim. And yet, the Torah says that you're chayav. And Rabbi Yehuda later on at Daf Samach darshins from the word hasada that even in a nezek of karka or avonim you're chayav for eish. So this is the unique halach of eish, according to Rabbi Yehuda, who holds Yechayev and eish on Tamun, and that is that in eish you're going to be chayav even for nizkei karka, which is unique to eish. We never find another chiyuv nezikin to karka, to avonim, to the dirt on the ground, and that itself is unique to eish. That eish has to pay even if it scorches the ground. And damages the car. It's very interesting to me that each one of the Avos Nezikin is written to present its unique shita, but it's always lakula, with the exception of H. Take a look. In the case of Keren, it means that you're only chayav nezik, chatzi nezik for the first three negifas. In the cases of Shem V'Regel, he's potter and gansin and Rishus Harab. In the case of of Bar, he's potter Caleb. Until we get to Adam. Adam is l'chayvo be'arba dvar. So we have a chumrah in Adam. In Eish, the Gemara l'chatchil thought it was a kula in Eish that you put for Tamun. But the Gemara says, according to Rav Yehuda, who holds that Yechayev in Eish and Tamun, Yechayev and Tamun be Eish, then the chumrah of Eish is that Yechayev for hezek to the karka. And this is derived, as we said earlier, on Daf Samach from the word hasadeh. Okay then, so this is where we'll stop for today. And Amir Hashem, tomorrow we'll get together at 1:15 p.m. Okay then. Thank you very much. Have a good night.